Have you ever looked at the video game expanse and at all the titles that we have on offer and thought to yourself, Jesus Christ lads, can we calm it down a little bit? I mean, seriously, you've got beheadings, spines being ripped apart and brains bursting out all over the shop. I mean, for God's sake, they even got Gandhi to drop a nuke. So can we all just put down the weapons of mass destruction and just keep calm for a little bit? In all seriousness, video games have been dialing up the brutality for decades now, and as such, there are some games that force you to slaughter the population of small nations in order to reach your goal. But not all of them, it seems, because the games on this list are mad difficult, yo, but at the same time can be beaten all without having to kill a single person outside of scripted encounters. So let's grab a cup of calming green tea, put some panpipe music on and chill the out. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 brutal video games where you don't have to kill anybody. Number 10, Tenchu. A series where you play as a 16th century ninja in feudal Japan doesn't seem like the kind of game where players can practice pacifism. I mean, sure, stealth is generally considered the name of the game when it comes to practitioners of ninjutsu, but that's normally only used to conceal a lethal strike on an unsuspecting fool. However, in the original Tenchu, which is bloody brilliant by the way, you can bypass most of the game without killing a single soul, and it allows you to truly embody a master of stealth. It also raises the tension of Tenchu a ton, because if you're aiming for a no-kill run, then you are going to have to become one with the shadows, and completing the game in this manner doesn't actually net you any unlocks, but at least you know you did it, and that's all that counts, right? Number 9, Ikuraga. When it comes to gaming genres where killing is the most widespread, shoot-em-ups surely have got to be pretty high up on the list, don't they? And in this bullet hell bastard that is Ikuraga, you will certainly have to kill a lot to avoid being swamped by gunfire. Or do you? Well, it turns out that this brutally hard game does actually offer a pacifist run, but please only consider this if you are able to maneuver between pixel-perfect gaps with 100% accuracy, as if you're not, you're going to go down quicker than me after the buy one get one free shot section of the Staff Christmas Do. Ooh, just getting a hangover thinking about it. With that being said, it is possible to complete much of the Ikuraga game without resorting to violence, though it's certainly not easy, as you'll not just have to get to the bosses, but then wait out a time limit for each one before they decide that they've had enough of you embarrassing them without shooting back and naff off. Those that do complete this test of patience successfully without firing a single shot are rewarded with the Dot Eater achievement. Is it worth it? Is it balls? Number 8, Cuphead. One of the most challenging games released in recent years, Cuphead seems intent on killing the player over and over again. It's a run-and-gun platformer with an art style inspired by the golden age of cartoons, and while it is incredibly gorgeous to look at and play, it's almost sadistic in its difficulty. So what if the player elects to turn the other cheek and refrain from violence throughout their playthrough? Well, it is possible, but it's also a perfect way to make an already difficult game even more punishing. And yet, if the player can manage to navigate their way through Cuphead's many levels while avoiding violence, they will be rewarded with the Pacifist achievement. However, it is worth noting that while a pacifism achievement is available in-game, the player doesn't actually have to be totally Christ-like in order to receive it, as you can use the parry jump in order to slap some enemies right in their faces. Number 7, Undertale. Undertale is a prime example of a game that allows the player to choose a pacifistic route, despite the opportunities for violence being plentiful throughout. Hell, some characters will even encourage you to kill and kill and kill, but you know what? That's not who we are today. Much like some other titles featured on this list, Undertale has dynamic reactions to the player's decisions, and the player can be both praised and derided in-game for their efforts to complete their quest without the use of violence. In fact, completing a Buddha-like playthrough and sparing everybody you encounter throughout is the only way the player can achieve the optimum ending in the game. It also results in a rough boss battle, but then again, Undertale absolutely loves chucking those at us, so get ready for some tears and some tantrums, all the while trying to keep your cool. Number 6, Fallout New Vegas. So I think that we can all agree that New Vegas is the best modern Fallout game, right? Right, good. I'm glad that we could all agree and see that this Obsidian-developed title is the best thing that Bethesda have ever taken credit for. If you've not played it before, then in New Vegas, the player takes control of a courier who's been left for dead and has to do their best to navigate a post-apocalyptic wasteland inhabited by a variety of mutated monsters and unfriendly tribespeople. In such an ethicless world, one would assume that the primary objective would be shoot first and then ask what the hell even was that later. But no, you can and should try to complete the game without killing a single person, which you can totally do thanks to the speech and trait options available. It will be an absolute slog, but it can be done. Number 5. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Blackout. With the popularization of online gaming in the mid to late 2000s, Call of Duty became an FPS juggernaut, responsible for bringing online PvP action into the mainstream not just in gaming, but in popular culture. However, as with all things, COD's massive success began to wane into the following decade, in part due to increased competition from competitors and also because many saw the format as becoming a little tired and stale. So in an attempt to reclaim a dominant position in the marketplace, COD has begun to change with the times and adapt by including a Battle Royale mode in their last 2 entries. With the very nature of a Battle Royale mode stacking the odds against the player, it's almost impossible to conceive emerging victorious without ever firing a shot, but it is possible. Players who manage to outlast their competition without the need for violence are even rewarded with the Path to Peace calling card, and it's pretty great if you ask me. Number 4. Final Fantasy VII. It's time to talk about one of the most acclaimed games, the legendary Final Fantasy VII, which recently got a pretty fresh remake. Now here's the thing, you do have to defeat people in Final Fantasy VII, so I am going to bend the rules on this one a little bit. And while you probably could, with mad patience, let your party kill everything, which hasn't actually been tested fully yet, there is one bit in the Shinra building in Chapter 16 where you can completely bypass violence, and that is why I'm including it on this list. When you enter the offices, you're given 2 choices, either take the stairs or the elevator. If the player chooses the stairs, they can skip out 2 battle sequences, but instead will have to walk up all 59 floors. I mean, nobody ever said that being virtuous would be easy, but it is doable. Number 3. Iggy. In the 2008 platformer Iggy, the player takes the role of the titular protagonist, who is a 20-year-old woman who has been made into a cyborg soldier to try and combat an alien invasion. Now, despite these aliens killing her family, the protagonist isn't comfortable with the well-established gaming trope of seeking cold-blooded, indiscriminate revenge, opening up instead an alternative route for players to seek out should they decide to. You can take a non-violent path through the game, and it opens up a host of different options in the story that would otherwise become unattainable. Unlike some of the other entries on this list, Iggy actually includes a variety of non-lethal weapons for the player to use to aid them in completing a non-violent run without necessarily forcing a stealth or speech-oriented playthrough either. So basically, in short, it's the best of both worlds. Number 2. Metal Gear Solid 4. The Metal Gear Solid series' emphasis on stealth and strategy has meant that players have always been able to mitigate the amount of bloodshed by making certain strategic choices in their games. Clearly, this is something that Kojima and co anticipated when developing the series, as right from the first game, the player will receive special acknowledgements for keeping fatalities to a minimum during their playthrough. And thankfully, in the later games, they gave you much more options to make sure that that kill count stays low or at absolute 0. However, 2008's Metal Gear Solid 4 takes the pacifism of the previous games to a whole new level by allowing players to complete the entire campaign without killing once. Now, of course, this isn't something that we'd recommend to anyone but the most seasoned of MGS players, but it is possible to progress through the entire game and even defeat all of the bosses without utilizing any lethal methods. Just be prepared for a lot of waiting around and absolute rage when your cover gets blown all the time. And number 1, Postal 2. Sometimes it is the most unfathomably violent games that surprise you with an ability to avoid indulging in the most barbarous of playthroughs, with the 2003 controversial classic Postal 2 proving no exception. Though the game is well known in part because of the public outcry that surrounded some of the things the player could get up to in the game, such as urinating in your own face to rehydrate being one of the many hilarious possibilities, the sequel to the initial Postal title actually has a campaign for the player to complete, and they can do so without killing a single soul. But let's be honest there, the campaign isn't very good. Still, despite the ultra-violence often being only a fingertip away from the player, they can choose to navigate the whole game without shedding a single drop of blood. Though this can prove exceedingly tedious and will likely end with one murder, that of your bloody patience. Players who avoided temptation and reached the end of the week without committing the deadliest of all sins will be provided with a special biblical-themed message, which is, more of a piss take than it is actual praise, but hey-ho, you can do it, so knock yourselves out. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 brutal video games where you don't have to kill anybody. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, as well as any other entries that you have included on this list, because who knows, I might come back and do a commenters edition of this further down the line. I hope that you're doing well, and before I go, I just want to say one quick thing. We detailed today about games where you don't have to kill everyone. We don't have to go out into the world with aggression and meet society head on with a weapon or blunt object or some horrible thing that you've just pulled out of your kitchen drawer. These instead walk the line of peace, and that is the message that I'm trying to promote today, that you, my friend, you deserve love, happiness and success. You are a good person, I know you are, and if you have made mistakes in the past, I hope that you are trying to rectify them, because you do not want that war within yourself to eat you alive. Trust me on that one. Be sure you are speaking to people, be sure that you are open to change, be sure that you are not resenting your neighbor. Try to go out there with love in your hearts instead of hate, because if you can do that, if you can let go, then trust me, you will live a much better, happier and more fulfilling life. Big love to you and yours. Now go out there and smash at your big ledge, or don't smash it with a weapon, like I said before, just metaphorically. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.